Hey everybody! Just a quick reminder, these stories aren't always public perfect conversation. I do use a lot of strong language in here, and I talk about some things that aren't always necessarily pleasant to hear. But I hope you still enjoy it. Also, please don't forget to check me out on everywhere you can find music and other podcasts. Mostly, follow me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can get ad-free content, 24 hours early access to episodes, and for $3 a month, you get the options of having community chats with me and some of the other fans. For $5 a month, you get voting powers on any changes I want to run through the fans. You also get priority requests and suggestions, live Q&As, community chats, one-on-one chats with me personally, either through messages or through calls. And if you'd like, maybe at some point we can set up a time to where you could be a guest on the show, tell some of your own stories, and if not tell your own stories, at least be there to have some back and forth and we can have some fun. And of course, that's in addition to everything from the lower tiers. I'm planning on doing more with the community as it grows. With that being said, let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is, of course, Stories from Behind the Counter, and I'm your host, Alpha. Thank you all for coming back to listen to the show. I know it's been a while. I'm so sorry. I had to focus on family, had to focus on work, and of course, got to collect some of those stories. With that being said, we're going to start this season off with a little bit of a splash. We got some real interesting stories for you guys. But of course, if you're a returning listener, you already know that's all we deal with is a lot of real interesting stories. If you're new here, however, welcome in. I hope you're ready for this. Buckle up and let's enjoy some craziness. Maybe you can share some stuff with us too. Let's get into it. So to start out the new season, I want to say happy 2026 to everybody. Happy New Year. I hope everyone's holidays were fun. Those of us who work in retail or any customer-facing job, more than likely we had a little bit of hecticness. Some real crazy things. So we're going to talk about those. The first story we have is actually from an anonymous listener. They didn't want to give anything away about themselves. They want to stay 100% anonymous. I respect that. The listener writes in saying, I have one from last Black Friday. A woman came into the store in search of the famous poinsettias, 99 cents while supplies last. At this point, it's 10:39 a.m. This woman comes in, snatches up the doorbuster blow-up Grinch, and then she comes up to me and asks where the poinsettias are. I tell her, I'm so sorry, but we sold out by about 6:20 this morning. Then she went into a rage. She called me a lying fucking bitch. She ran up to another coworker, turns and yells, fuck you, it's your fault, while pointing at me. And then she proceeds to run up to a brand new cashier who happens to be of Asian descent, and she yells at the poor cashier who'd done nothing at this point, fuck you, go back to China. And she runs out the doors. Happy holidays, folks. This is me speaking as Alpha. Sadly, that happens quite often. Some big, really good deal. People want to come in halfway through the day, even a couple hours after our doors open, and they get upset that something that was one of the best deals in the entire store is sold out. Well, ma'am, I apologize. Next time, get there earlier. We can only do so much. We can't keep people from buying them. The whole point is to sell them. And we only get sent so much. Sorry. This next story is actually one of my own. This was when I was a store manager at a smaller store. It's Thanksgiving morning. Of course, lovely corporations, I have to work. So, me and about 3 other people are in the store getting ready for our all sales day and trying to get as much out on the floor as we can from the back room. We were going to make it a good day. We got in, it's about 4 a.m. The store doesn't open until 7. which, mind you, it's clearly marked on the doors. We work for a little bit and decide we all need to have a smoke break. So we go outside, smoke, and come back in. As the other guys are filing in, I want to take my jacket off and put it in the break room. Apparently, this lady managed to somehow drive up without anyone noticing and snuck her way into the store after we all had our smoke break. Apparently, none of my guys had stayed at the door until I could come back and lock it. So a few minutes later, we realize this lady is just shopping, even though the store is dark as hell. The sign on the door flat out says, "We open at 7 a.m., and she thinks we're open. I haven't even bothered to count the money or start the tills yet. So I just let her know I'm so sorry, but we're very obviously closed, and I had to explain that I didn't put any tills in, or even counted any of the money yet. She would have to come back later. Of course, she scoffed at me. She just couldn't understand why I couldn't just ring her up and get her on her way. She just kept arguing that, well, the door was unlocked, so that means you're open. You just need to ring me up so I can go. I need all this stuff like yesterday. So after a few minutes of arguing, when she finally hit that, I replied, well, you should have gotten it yesterday, or you can wait till 7. Now, you can just leave. She slammed her stuff down and she stormed out, saying, I'm never coming to this shithole again. I'm going to Walmart, and peeled out of my parking lot. Sadly, I'm pretty sure her morning was about to get way worse because, well, my local Walmart was closed that day, amazingly. Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Well, as much fun as that one was, got more coming. So this one was pretty recent. I'm working at another place right now. I just recently got promoted to a department supervisor. But I'm not just promoted and working a new department. At this point, I'm kind of sort of running my old department and my new one because the way the schedule works out and some stuff that had happened. Long story short, I was pretty much running 2 departments, for lack of a better term. Or to say the least, I was trying to keep both departments from falling apart by not having anyone in either one, if that makes sense. So I'm already having a hectic day. I'm bouncing between the 2 areas, trying to make sure everything goes smoothly, pretty much running around nonstop for the last 2 hours or so. And my manager on duty calls for something over the walkie-talkie, but I can't quite hear as there was a lot going on and the walkie was in one of my pockets. So I grabbed it out and I responded with, sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you please repeat? The manager on duty responds with, I need a male associate that wants a badge award. Now, every company has some sort of award process that they celebrate their associates one way or another. Some of them use badges, some of them use pins, or, something of the sort. So, when another associate responds with, don't do it, it's a trap, which is this particular associate's usual response. They always do it as a joke anyway. I've been in customer service jobs, especially working for corporations, long enough to know that if a manager is offering an award immediately, but keeping the task very vague, it is most definitely always a trap. So I respond with, I know it's a trap. They're offering a reward. Let me take care of the money that I'm dealing with right now, and I'll be right there. So I finished up what I was doing, and I headed to where management was. Right off the bat, they told me that I'd need some PPE, and I would need to be ready. It's bad, but at least it's just in one restroom stall. I already know what I'm in for at this point. For those who don't know what PPE is, PPE stands for Personal Protective Equipment. It's usually used to cover yourself while cleaning hazardous materials, bodily fluids, and usually anything that's absolutely disgusting or potentially dangerous. Keep in mind, this is about a week before Christmas. So my festive ass was wearing a big old fluffy Christmas sweater with a tie knitted on and a Santa hat. Obviously, I took that off. I got those big, thick rubber gloves, grabbed a mop bucket, all that fun cleaning shit, and I went into the restroom to find what else but a pair of boxers covered in shit and all over the floor. There were some on the wall, baseboard tiles, and of course, a good portion on the sides and lid of the toilet. So, what else can you do at this point? With gloves on, I just scooped it up and, well, what I could, flushed the bulk of it down the toilet, mopped up the rest, and once I was done, I go back into the managers and say, well, that wasn't the worst thing I've dealt with, but that still wasn't very fun. That was fucked up, guys. Of course, they all just laughed, gave me my reward, and walked off. Later on at home was really the funniest part. I was regaling the story to my other half, and he was asking about the awards, and he asked how many that makes for me now. Absent-mindedly, I just responded with, "Well, this one makes number 2." After a moment of silence, I realized what I said, and I started laughing and had to add, no pun intended, but the irony's beautiful. Really, what else can you do after something like that? It's it's messed up, but at the same time, you just got to get through it, laugh it off, joke about it somehow, and tell yourself Merry Christmas, I guess. Anywho, we're gonna go ahead and switch over to this next story. It's the last one, and I wanted to end the show on a very positive note. So this one was very heartwarming and very touching. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did the first time I read it through. This story is from someone who's written in before. Her name that we call her is Birdie. She's a good friend, and even though she hasn't listened to the show, she's a fan of what I'm doing. So she's continuing to send me stories, and this one was just amazing. Birdie starts out by saying, "Do you know the story of the Christmas truce of 1914? If not, I push you to research and learn about it. Had I personally known about the Christmas truce years ago, I would have grasped a particular night shift that I had to work in jail with much more immediate importance than I did at that current moment. I was in the midst of my own Christmas truce, and I didn't fully realize it until now. This is not to say that I did not find the following events unimportant. I, by all means, did find them amazing, and I still do. So did my sergeant. My story starts out in the mid-1980s on a Christmas Eve night. Like I said, at a jail. I was working on the 6th floor, which was what we called a trustee pod. Everything was essentially normal that Christmas Eve. The trustees were all going about their normal lives as much as they can in a jail facility. About an hour into the shift, I noticed that many of the men had seemingly disappeared into their cells. I thought it was a bit odd, but I had to go about my own duties of counts, meds, mail, stuff like that, so I just kept watch. As the time passed, I listened into many of the cells and heard quiet voices chatting back and forth. The only thing out of the norm was how peaceful each cell sounded. There were no loud rowdiness or overt laughing, no pumping up to be better than the guy next to you. It just seemed peaceful that night. Off to my left was a stainless steel table with 3 to 4 guys coming and going from cell to cell with toilet paper rolls. Empty toilet paper rolls at that. They were systematically tearing the rolls into particular shapes. This is not exactly a normal event, but they were quiet, occupied, and seemingly had no ill intentions. So I did my best not to disturb them, and frankly paid little attention at the time. About 3 hours into the shift, I was approached at the deputy station by one of the trustees. The trustee said, "Deputy, there's something we want to do for you this Christmas Eve." Well, in my position, I was taken aback for a second, but being the only female at the time, I had to keep my structure about myself and stoically said, "Okay, what is it?" The trustee responded with, "Just watch, you'll see." I watched as each cell slowly emptied one by one, and the men lined up in rows at the tables in front of my station. Some were seated, some standing 3 deep. The inmates, who I mostly had a decent past with, began to sing. They sang "O Holy Night," and it was so beautiful. Yes, they were in harmony. They put so much heart into the show that they wanted to put on for me alone. The men off to my left joined the group, now exposing what they had been working on with the toilet paper rolls. They had made a 3-foot tall Christmas tree. It was a sight that I'm sure very few had ever seen or experienced within a jail setting. I was incredibly moved by their obvious joy. I called my sergeant and said, "You have to get up here and see this." And I just hung up. I didn't tell him what was going on, so he was there within about 2 minutes, probably thinking something bad was happening. He walked in, and he could not believe what he was seeing. All of these men, caroling with smiles, showing grace and thankfulness in their faces. My sergeant asked me, "How in the world did you get them to do this?" I told him, "I didn't do anything except treat them like anyone would want to be treated around the holidays, with dignity and respect, with concern and care, showing them that we are all here together on Christmas Eve." I explained that it was not a big deal and we would make the best out of our joint incarceration, being in the same boat essentially. We were just on opposite sides, and they chose to do this on their own. It was such a beautiful gesture, and I was incredibly moved by this. We watched as they sang multiple songs in amazing harmonies. I will never forget this event. I also hope that somewhere, some of them remember it and know that I was very thankful for the experience, the gift they gave me that night. I was never mean or rude to them over my time in the men's facility, yet somehow it was that jail's Christmas truce produced just for me, and I know they were all led by a higher power to conduct it, and I thank them. Not long after that, I received a letter at the jail from a previous inmate thanking me for being a, quote, real human with compassion, and that if all the deputies could have been like me, their experiences would have led many of them into a more positive place in life. He thanked me for my efforts and really cared about their outcomes if I could. I will never forget this experience. It has stayed with me for all of these years, and forever will. It made an impact on me, realizing that the people in jail are the same people we walk around with on the outside, just different days and different times. You've just got to have the right gut about you at these times and not let fear or ignorance stifle the potential surprises that may lay ahead. Happy holidays to everyone. And again, if you haven't heard of the 1914 Christmas truce before, please look it up. This is me speaking as Alpha again. Birdie, that was an absolutely beautiful story from a very unexpected place. Thank you so much for sharing your story. This is the kind of thing that gives you hope for humanity, at least in my opinion, showing that no matter where we are or why we're there, if we could all just make the best out of our life with our own decisions, sometimes just show people a little bit of humanity, they'll show it back. It's just beautiful. And I agree with Birdie. I am personally a huge fan of learning history and seeing how humanity does and doesn't change over the years. It shows the best and the worst of us. And the 1914 Christmas truce was an awesome thing to hear about during such a horrific event. Having said that, I just want to suggest a couple of podcasts to listen to. They do have some amazing stories of history. Some are fun, some are just a little demented, as history can be. As a lot of people say, history is never clean, but sometimes it surprises you. No, this is not a paid ad for anyone else, but I do enjoy these podcasts that I'm about to mention, and I believe that everyone should learn more about history in general. So I implore you, if you're so inclined, go and check out History of Everything with Stakuyi and Gabby. They go over some very different, crazy stories, but all true historical events. The next one I suggest is History for Weirdos with Andrew and Stephanie. They also go over some very interesting things in history. There are, of course, so many other places to look, but they make learning history fun, in my opinion. If you want to find some more fun shows, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Patreon, and we'll talk. With that, I think we're going to call this an episode. I hope everybody had a great holiday season, no matter what you celebrate, and I hope 2026 is better for everyone. Thanks again for listening, guys. As always, I appreciate everyone who's been listening, and especially those who've been sending me their stories. Again, whatever I call you on the show is all you will ever be known as. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to Denise Esparza from Nisi Art on Instagram. She's the one who's responsible for the thumbnails that you guys see when I upload my episodes. Check her out on Instagram if you want to see what else she can do. I want to give a shout out to Nivation as well for the intro and the outro music that's provided for the show. You can find Nivation on Spotify and on Facebook. Nivation, Denise, you guys are awesome, and I appreciate both of you for helping me keep this going. With all that being said, this is Alpha signing off. Stay fabulous, everyone.